So no, I'm asking. I should ask it. No. The question really is what he wants to, how he wants to do the shir. Because I'm like
there is a verse in Tzemach Tzedek. Tzemach Tzedek said that if the Alter Rebbe will live, there's two different versions of this verse. This is the way this is written to Shalom, more or less. If the Alter Rebbe would live in the time of the prophets, he would be a prophet. If the Alter Rebbe lived in the time of the
Back up for 1 second. Who said that?
Tzemach Tzedek. If you live in the time of the Tanoim, you'll be a Tana. If you live in the time of the Nevi'im, you'll be a prophet. And then he continued and said, the Zayda is given, my grandfather was a great Tana and a great Navi. But because generation wasn't deserving, it was hidden. That's Tzemach Tzedek said.
You can't even say he's a Gilgul because he's a Chadash.
The truth is that in Bereishis Rabbah, Perek Vav, it says more than that.
This is still part of Teres Shalom? Or this is
no, this is not that now. This is a question that asked.
I want to just focus on Teres Shalom, or you want to go?
This is part of the Teres Shalom. The Rebbe asked a question to Teres Shalom.
Okay.
The Rebbe asked a question to Teres Shalom. This is from Chelik Dalet with the Sichos. I don't remember. So the Rebbe said that there is a much more powerful line, it seems, in the Talmud. The Talmud says that there's no generation that does not have someone like Moshe Rabbeinu. No generation does not have someone like all the greatest tzaddikim of history, not just a prophet, not just a Tana, but like Moshe Rabbeinu. So what's unique about what the Tzemach Tzedek says when it seems like the Talmud says far more? Tzemach Tzedek is trying to extol, the virtues of the Alter Rebbe, and it seems that the Talmud says even more than that. And similar expressions are used by Rabbi Yehuda Chassid as well. So what's Tzemach Tzedek saying? So understand this. The Rebbe discusses the laws of a wellspring. We just had this in the Rambam. When Mashiach told Baal Shem Tov that he'll come when the teachings of Baal Shem Tov were disseminated, he emphasized that he'll come when the well springs are spread to the outside. Why do you use the word wellspring? So,
what's what? Mayanis.
Mayanis. Why do you use the word Mayan specifically? So let's go a little bit into the laws of a Mayan, halachic status of a Mayan, to understand exactly why that word was used. There are many different elements. One element is that the water of a Mayan, the water of a wellspring, is only considered as to have the same status as a wellspring if there's no interruption between the wellspring and the water. If the water passes through if something interrupts it, it's no longer considered in the same status as the wellspring. Only if it's we have a front row seat for Dr. Best right over here. Only if Emes. Only
you win.
That's something
only if the water is attached to the wellspring do you actually does have the status of wellspring. So what that means spiritually is that in addition to spreading the teachings of Baal Shem Tov, it's important that these teachings remain connected to the author of those teachings. In other words, that you're not just learning the ideas from those tzaddikim, but you're also connecting the tzaddikim themselves. I think this is relevant to this Maamar because in the Maamar, the Rebbe speaks about how there are different, in every generation, there's someone like Moshe Rabbeinu, and there's different, let's see the next paragraph, how there's some tzaddikim whose role it is to inspire the Jewish people to sacrifice themselves despite the decrees of the Haman of that generation, or whatever challenges there are. And then there is a role of Moshe Rabbeinu in some generations to just teach Jewish people Torah in a way that they can understand, to teach Emunah in a way that we could process it, understand it, and integrate it and become part of who we are. And the Rebbe says that whether or not the role of the tzaddik of that generation is to inspire sacrifice, or he's just meant to, or his role is just, if Moshe Rabbeinu's role was to teach Emunah in a way that could be understood, there's a common denominator in both of their roles. Common denominator is that what the tzaddik is doing merely is not to create anything new, it's rather to give the Jew faith in Hashem that's connected with his very essence. We learned yesterday that every Jew believes in Hashem because a Jew it has a part of godliness in him. It is just like we know who we are, that we exist. So do we know that the Eibishter is here because there's a part of because our neshama is a part of him. So what Moshe Rabbeinu's role is to reveal the essence of the Jew. That's his role. In what way? One generation, the way to reveal the essence of the neshama is by a sacrifice, Mesiras Nefesh, by defying the home of that generation. Other generations, the way that what Moshe Rabbeinu's role is not to sacrifice is needed. What his role is to make that is to cause that their faith should become something they can understand with their mind. But it's not only an exercise of the intellect that they should understand what they believe in, but really what he's trying to do is to reveal the essence of the neshama. And the essence of the neshama is expressed either in sacrifice, essence of the neshama is expressed in our faith becoming internalized. In other words, there is the core effort of Moshe Rabbeinu, which is, I want to touch your neshama, I want to reveal who you are. And then there's what do you need to do now? What's the primary way that this is expressed at this time? Time of Mordechai, it was expressed in sacrifice. Time of Moshe Rabbeinu, it was expressed in being able to take these lofty things that we only believe in, we can understand, and make it something you can understand in your mind and integrate it with your psyche. The fusion, okay, got the fusion in a second. But so in order for our emunah to be something which is part of who we are, which as a result of that we're going to die, we're going to live and die for it, or it's going to be something which is part of the way we think. Both of those things are only possible when the essence of the neshama is revealed. Only the essence of the neshama has that capability. As we'll see soon, why that's something which is related to essence. I didn't explain why those two things are essence. Yesterday I touched a little bit on sacrifice, but before we get to why those two things are essence, let's just say a Sif Aleph, say chapter 1. Chapter 1, the role of Moshe Rabbeinu is to reveal the essence of the neshama, and there's different ways that it's expressed. Okay, getting back to the Alter Rebbe. So one halach of the Mayan is that the water is only considered water from the wellspring if it's attached to the wellspring, and therefore they spoke about how it's not sufficient as you're learning Chassidus, but you have to abnegate yourself to the wellspring, to those who are giving you the Chassidus, to the source of the Chassidus, to the Rebbe. There is a need for there to be a connection to the wellspring itself, not just to the water that comes from the wellspring. That is another halach. Another halach like this. Tosfos says that it's interesting Tosfos. We even back to before to understand Tosfos, let me just tell you another halacha which maybe will help us understand Tosfos a little better. The Gemara says that Shimon holds that fruit in a field, according to Shimon, cannot be considered bikurim. Why? You can't make the fruit on your field bikurim. You can't say the fruit which is still attached to the ground should become considered bikurim. Why? He says that's not called fruit. At what point does it become fruit? Only when it's detached to the ground. While it's still attached to the ground, it's called field. In a similar way, Tosfos says that Tosfos has a question, but that's not the conclusion. But Tosfos has a question. Says maybe a wellspring's water is only able to purify when it's flowing. Why does Tosfos say it's only able to purify when it's flowing? Because while the water is still in the wellspring, it's not called water yet. It's just called wellspring, and therefore the Tosfos says the water has to leave the wellspring in order for it to be considered water. While it's still in its source, it's not called water yet. It's just called wellspring. The water has to leave the. So in a similar way, there is at what point are you? At what point is it possible to say that there's purity, that there's an impact from the wellspring when it's bezechon, when it's flowing outwards? So while there were tzaddikim, in every generation there are tzaddikim that have a similarity to Moshe Rabbeinu, etc., that's only the way they have things within themselves. That's only something which is true within themselves. It's not something that anyone knows about or anyone could connect to, because it's just within them. What's unique about the Alter Rebbe was that it was zeichon. The Alter Rebbe's wellsprings were flowing outwards, so that in his teachings, you had not only the teachings themselves, you also had the wellspring itself. You also had the core of what he was doing, which is, as we're learning, to reveal the essence of Emunah itself, to reveal the essence of the Neshama itself, not just the teachings, not just the ideas. Within the ideas, you had the essence. And although the Tzemach Tzedek says it was hidden, what he means is, the Rebbe says, is that he dressed it into logic. He dressed it into ideas and that can comprehend and to work with and to process. But what he was giving to us with his teachings was not just the teachings themselves. He was giving us the wellspring itself. And the wellspring is only a wellspring when it flows out into the water. No, only when it flows out into his students. Now, other generations, the Rebbe said, the tzaddikim may have this within themselves, but and they may say things to all their students, but they're not connecting what their teachings with their core. In other words, there is their teachings, and then there is their essence, and they don't know, the students have no way of connecting the various things that they're learning from their teachers with where those things are coming from. In other words, the stuff, let's say, let's not make Mayor a little nervous. Let's say Snapple. It says in every bottle it's made of the greatest stuff on earth, right? Right. So ordinarily. Oh.
Whatever.
Okay.
Easy amount.
Yes. He used to say that. Doesn't say anymore.
Doesn't say anymore.
Not anymore?
Took it off. Took it off. It's now only on Chassidus. It's now only on Chassidus. So it's now removed from Snapple because Chassidus, the words made it. They should have on every Maamar, made the greatest stuff on earth. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Before you put it, you should have it.
Made the greatest stuff on earth.
That's right.
So by other tzaddikim, they had something of Moshe Rabbeinu in them, and they said things to all the people. They wrote books and they get teachings, but you couldn't connect their teachings with their essence, with their Moshe Rabbeinu like neshamas. What was unique about the Alter Rebbe is that the Alter Rebbe was Matayr B'Zeichlin, that his core was revealed this teaching in the logic. And so you were learning a logical idea. You're learning some things which make sense to you. You're learning, as I mentioned yesterday, chapter 3 of Shayich al-Emunah, chapter 2 of Shayich al-Emunah. There's some which logical perspective of why it makes sense to say that at every moment Hashem is creating the world. That's what you're learning. But besides the logic element in it, you're also getting something that the Alter put into those teachings that comes from the core of the Alter. You're not just getting the logic itself, you're also getting the mayon, it's also getting the wellspring. So that's what the meaning of the words of Tzemach Tzedek, that the Alter Rebbe was a Navi, the Alter was a Tana, but it was hidden. What he means is that it was hidden, not that they didn't connect with anybody. On the contrary, what was unique about the Rebbe was that it did connect, that it was revealed. That's why it's something that in Bereshis Rabbah, where it says that every generation, someone like Moshe Rabbeinu, okay, someone like Moshe Rabbeinu, and no one knows, and that's just within themselves. They have something, but no one benefits from it. By the Alter Rebbe, it was revealed. However, the generation what didn't merit it, and therefore what they got was they only got they got the Tanya, they got the ideas, but the core within those ideas that remained hidden. Now, why is it remained hidden? They understood Tanya, they understood Yiddishkeit, they understood the Eibishter in a way that whatever they connected with Hashem, who was beyond knowledge in a way that's very real for them. But in the same way, time it's still not as great as in a way what Mordechai did. What Mordechai did in a way is greater than what the Alter Rebbe did in a way, if you could say, because the Alter Rebbe Mr. Nefesh as well, but in this element of teaching Torah to a person, making Emunah real, it's powered by the essence of the neshama, but it's not essence. It's not. You don't see the essence of neshama in that itself. In other words, in the process of understanding and integrating your Emunah, making it part of you, in order for that to happen, there has to be some your essence. It makes that possible, because there's two different kinds of soul energy. There's transcendent soul energy, there's faith, and there's another, and then there is immanent soul energy, the energy which is in your mind, in your heart, that it has a vessel, that has a limitation. Ordinarily, these two different kinds of soul energy are two different. They're separate from each other. In order to make Emunah to become part of who we are, the only reason why that's possible was because the essence of the neshama is the essence of every part of the neshama. The word essence means it's an essence of everything. In other words, if you were to look at any part of the neshama, to dig deeper in that part of the neshama, I had this habit, I have to get rid of it, but every so often I hit myself on the head because, what was I thinking? And my kids said, what are you doing, Tati? I was digging, trying to find something. Anyway, so if you were to dig into every part of the neshama, you would find the essence of the neshama. So in the process of bringing emunah into our logic, that the reason why that's possible is because the essence of the neshama is the essence of our logic as well. The essence of the neshama is the essence of the soul and the body as well. So Moshe Rabbeinu and the Moshe of every generation, their role is to reveal the essence of the neshama. In a generation where someone has to actually die a Kiddush Hashem, there you see stark revealed the essence of the neshama because it's not just powered by the essence of the neshama. That's you see the light of the essence of the neshama in that experience. You see that a Jew cannot accept to another religion. He has to die. There's no choice. You see the essence of the neshama of a Jew openly. In a generation like Moshe Rabbeinu's generation, where that wasn't necessary. Generation of Alter Rebbe's generation, where that wasn't necessary, their role was to bring their emunah to the Yidden in a way that they can understand it. They're also giving them the essence of the neshama, but the essence of the neshama is merely powering what they're doing. It's not a revelation of the essence of the neshama itself. So,
how does that show?
How does what show?
What you just said. The difference between the Alter Rebbe and others, the essence of the neshama shows.
Well, when you see someone who actually has to stand in front of Haman and learn Torah, you see an expression of the essence of the Hashem that the Jew cannot let go of Hashem. When you're learning a chapter in Tanya, not necessarily do you see the magic of it. It must be magical. It must have something of the essence of the Hashem in it because they're two opposing diametrically. They're two very different kinds of forces which are converging. The reason why it's possible for them to converge is because the essence of the Hashem. But that's merely what's happening behind the scenes. In a Jew jumping into fire, you see something otherworldly. You see that's in the Hashem. Yeah.
But is that also?
You don't like it. Why don't you like it?
Some don't like it.
You don't understand it?
Yeah. I'm asking that you're saying about that. How does it come to the table? What is it? The creation of the Tanya is the creation of Chassidus, is the creation of the way you does it. How do we see it? Simple people. What do we see?
We see a munah becoming part of who we are. That when Chas Hashem there's a theft, our munah becomes part of who we are.
So then we know that the Alter Rebbe called it this.
So I'm not speaking about the Alter Rebbe specifically. I brought in a verse from Tzemach. I was speaking with every generation. The Moshe Rabbeinu every generation.
Okay.
His role is to reveal the essence of the neshama. Some generations, the expression of that is that they're able to integrate their faith in with their logic. In some generations, they actually have to die Kiddush Hashem. Okay. In a way, you see more essence in people dying Kiddush Hashem. It's not just powered by essence. That's an exercise of essence.
Right. If a guy changes his whole lifestyle, on Shabbos he used to sit and watch TV and whatever else the guy would do on Shabbos, and all of a sudden he changes his total lifestyle because of the fact that Shliach Eremen, and now he goes to shul and he davens and learns and so on. That's a big sacrifice. I mean, we don't understand it. We don't know that. If you look from the guy's point of view,
right?
It's a big sacrifice.
It's a very big sacrifice.
But how does it reconcile? If you're talking about Mordechai and Haman and Purim, huge example. How does that compare to Hitler and what happened about Shemo with the Jews? Because that was also
right. It's also huge. Right. No question about it. That's very very similar generation in that sense. Hitler was.
Haman didn't have a choice either.
Hitler was definitely but it's a Haman of his time.
Well, he was a descendant of a bullet.
But then the role of the leader during the war was
to inspire you can keep terms of self-only.
And that was what the other Rebbe. I always get this.
And the leader generation of Yimach World War II was the previous Rebbe.
The previous Rebbe. Right.
So I want to find better words to explain the idea of revelation essence in the neshama versus power essence from I see not conveying it.
The way you explain that is very powerful. When I hear he's ready to give up his
life.
Whatever, for Yiddishkeit.
And
we're talking about that the lifestyle may not be, if you ask them a week before if you would do it, he'll tell you no, it's shooting guns.
Later on in the mind, there was a discussion Jews in America and when there's no challenges and how the essence is revealed that as well. But for right now, let's before I find any better words, all I could say is, I remember once asking Abil Khan about this similar thing. I was asking about serious nefesh and the impact. Don't think too much into it. A Jew is ready to die al Kiddush Hashem. Do you not see something otherworldly over here? Like the Rebbe Rashab writes about the Kasar Rugim Malchus, that the 10 Jews were killed by the Romans. He writes that they have Shotza Gashma, they didn't feel the physical at all. Their physical sense of self, it was suspended in their act of sacrifices. Or like it says about Avram Avinu, who took Yitzchak on Nakeda, it says he put him on top of the wood. So it says, what does the top of the wood mean? It means in that action of sacrifice of Avram, you see an expression of something just higher than the wood. The wood means the tree of knowledge and the tree of life. Something that's only possible before the sin of the tree of knowledge. You see something. You see a different kind of person who is so. You see the selflessness. Here's a good example. It says in Chassidus, how come Judaism goes by the mother, not by the father? So Chassidus says that there's something that the mother has that the father doesn't have. On the surface, the father's role is to teach a Torah and to teach a child how to keep Torah mitzvahs, etc. And the role, and the mother's role is a lot of mitzvahs, a lot of Reform conservative. They have a big problem. We don't honor the Jewish woman. We don't let her have the woman have aliyah. They can't read the Torah. They can't be a chazan, and they think that there's a disrespect of Yiddishkeit towards women. And the truth is, it's the opposite. Our very Jewishness is determined by the Jewish mother. Why is that our very Jewishness? So to explain this, Rebbe speaks about Rachel. The Rachel Imenu. Give me. I have 2 more minutes. Rachel Imenu. She was buried in a different place than all the other patriarchs and matriarchs. The reason she was buried in a different place, it says, is because she wanted to be there when her children would pass by there, and when they were going to be exiled in the exile of Bavel, she wanted to be there to daven for them and to have Hashem answer prayers and bring her children back to Eretz Yisrael to bring the Geulah. That's what she wanted to be there in order. So she chose to go in an unholy place, or not as holy place, in order to be there for her children. In a similar way, the Rebbe says that a Jewish mother, maybe she doesn't do all the holy things overtly that her husband is doing. She's not going to shul. She's washing the dishes. Okay, fine, I shouldn't say that. Husband should wash the dishes. She's helping with her children, and she's doing things outside of the shul.
My wife about this.
Oh, no. It's recorded.
She is outside of the holy place. She's not in the holy place. Just like Rachel was outside the holy place for the sake of her children. In that exercise, that experience of giving up being in a holy place for the sake of children, for the sake of your children, that is an expression of the essence of the neshama. Sacrifice is an expression of the essence of the neshama. Yes, there's a lot of things of the neshama is revealed in learning and in davening, and you feel it. But where do you get the core of the neshama? The core of the neshama is in sacrifice. That's the expression. The core of the neshama is not in the holy things that we do. The expression, the core of the neshama is in sacrifice. So that's why it says about the Mordechai generation, that the lead generation could see what he was doing. It was more obvious what he was doing. He revealed the essence of the neshama in a generation where that wasn't necessary. So you don't see that. You don't see the core of the neshama. You see a lot of holy things happening, but you don't see the core. The core is obscured by by the holy experiences that everyone's having. You don't see the very stuff the neshama is made out of. In a way, because Rachel wasn't buried in a holy place, and she had to, all the externals aren't there, you see the core of the neshama. You see that, what's the core of the neshama? What's the essence of a Jew? The essence of a Jew is sacrifice. That's why Judaism goes by the mother, because what makes you a Jew is not the things that you do. That's expression of neshama. You're learning, you're feeling the Emunah, your love for Hashem. It's expressions of the Hashem. The tribe you're from comes from your father. The expression of your Hashem comes from your father. But what makes you a Jew? What makes you a Jew is your mother. What makes you a Jew is your ability to have sacrifice, the ability to give up. There you see that core of the Hashem. So perhaps the generations of where serious nefesh isn't necessary, you don't see the core of the Hashem as much. You just see you just see what the Hashem is doing, the expression of the Hashem, but not the core. Serious nefesh. That's the very essence. Let's try to read inside this paragraph over here on page Kuf Lamed Gimel. Now we can explain that when the Maamar says that Moshe Rabbeinu was called the faithful shepherd, or the shepherd of faith, that he feeds and he nourishes every soul with faith in God, this isn't only true for Moshe Rabbeinu, but it's also true for the Moshe of every generation. They strengthen the faith of the Jewish people so they can stand strong with sacrifice to their mitzvahs. Seemingly, there's a difference between what Moshe Rabbeinu is doing and what they're doing. Moshe Rabbeinu was nourishing the faith itself in every Jew by bringing the Jewish people to have what's called das. Das is learned last week or 2 weeks ago. When that das means that you care about ruchnius. It was last week. Das means that you care about it. It's real to you. So Moshe gives the Jewish people the ability not just to know about it, but to care about it. That your faith in Hashem is something that's part of you. That's what his role was. But the shepherds of Israel, in every generation, they did something else. They inspired people to be ready to die for their termitzvahs. So it's two different things. Making your Yiddishkeit real to you, your faith in Hashem real to you is what Moshe Rabbeinu did. And other generations stand up and learn Torah and don't listen and ready to accept the sword rather than have them in the cross. Based upon what we learned until now, we could say the main role of the faithful shepherd is to give the Jew the faith itself, which means that our faith should not just be because of the external parts of our neshama, because let's say, for example, because a part of our neshama is in Gan Eden and sees godliness. That's not what should bring me faith. Rather, what should give me faith in Hashem? The role of the tzaddik of the generation is that my faith should be not because a part of me sees godliness. Rather, my faith should be stronger than that. Should come from the very core of my neshama. The role of the tzaddik of the generation is to reveal the essence of every Jew's neshama. And my faith should be because of the essence of my neshama, not just because there's a part of me that sees godliness. Did saw me there? She was on the far side. Muna Hatzam. She was dealing with the question. Now says Sefei that Shach some opinions, but that's when the Agila Skashas Hatzas as Neshama. The fact that Moshe Rabbeinu makes us care about our Muna, and that makes our Muna real to us. That's just an expression of what he's doing. The main thing Moshe Rabbeinu is doing is putting you in touch with your very core, and automatically you're able to have das, you're able to understand and to integrate and to care about the things you know about, the things that you believe in. That's only because your neshama is revealed, the essence of your neshama is revealed. That's powered by the essence of your neshama. Moshe Rabbeinu reveals the essence of your neshama, and now it's possible for your emunah to be real to you. I'm shocked when people start in order for that to happen, in order for it to make your emunah real, there had to be it's powered by the essence of your neshama coming to the fore. So based on this, we could say the based on this, we could say in those generations where sacrifice was necessary, the leaders of those generations did something more than Moshe Rabbeinu. They revealed something. They were revealed as shepherds of faith in a way more than Moshe Rabbeinu. Why? Because the main revelation of emunah coming from the essence of the neshama, where do you see an expression of Amunah that comes from the essence of the soul? Where do you see a faith in that level that comes from the essence of the soul? The main revelation of that is an actual sacrifice. And that, so therefore, both Moshe and the leaders of every generation doing the same thing. They're revealing that on the essence of the neshama, but there you see more of an expression than that in the generation of those leaders which had to actually inspire actual sacrifice. And Mitzvah will see, as Rebbe continues, that there's something that's unique in our generation that we see more in a way than ever before. But for right now, that's what we're up to. There is an advantage of Mordechai in a way of Moshe Rabbeinu revealing the essence of Hashem.
So to follow your analogy about the Puma, it's one thing to see all of the fruit on the tree from the Rebbe's. It's another thing to pick the apple off the tree, it becomes your own. Then you can sacrifice the apple. Before that, it's just hypothetical.
Emes gesagt.
Yeah.
Chai v'Racha.
There you go.